So I think there are things that like the general public needs to do. I think our city councillors need to do better. They need to acknowledge that sheltering is not, like, emergency shelters are not housing responses. Those are not housing-led responses. And that I challenge them to spend a week in one, right? Like they're not safe places for people to be. They're not healthy places for people to be from a mental or physical point of view. And this can't be our response. And so I think there has been this way that our city councillors have continued to say there are beds available in the shelter. There's often like one. And so therefore we've done diligence. And I think that we need to hold them to account in a different way. And then from a service providing perspective, I think we've put people in untenable situations where we have, because of a lack of stock, because of a lack of options for people, we have service providers rationalizing resource distribution. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough housing for people. So we've created all these systems to rationalize the trickle of access to what we do have that can make people feel like they are doing something, but we're not actually doing very much. And all we're doing is perpetuating what one of my colleagues at Laurier, Erin Day, called the homelessness industrial complex, like this army of people filling out SPDATs and participating in coordinated access, but not actually reducing wait times for housing, not actually engaging in any kind of activism. That's almost impossible now to do any kind of activism locally because all of the funds from the federal government flow through municipalities. So if you are a service provider that receives those funds, it's almost impossible to hold that municipality to account for their injustices because you'll get cut off. Mm-hmm. And so we have created a homelessness industrial complex that sustains itself and keeps really busy, and service providers are working very hard and burning out in ways that I'm very empathic towards, but not actually contributing to the resolution of homelessness in any real way because they're prevented from using the levers that would actually enable that outcome. And so I think that has to shift too. And again, that's like it's a policy response, and it's like as policy meets service provision, and as policy meets economics, because the way that they created the economic structure of, you know, flowing the funds through the cities, and then the cities redistribute the homelessness dollars to these agencies, it really does make it so difficult. It constrains agencies from being able to advocate at all.
You can't speak out against your employer.
No.
It's probably written right into the contract. Right?
Well, and it's also, there's been some damage done by particular consulting firms that inform municipal processes. So for example, the how to be an awesome shelter or how to run an awesome shelter kind of stuff is around creating an untenable space for people so that they aren't incentivized to stay in the shelter, which again, flies in the face of what we know about the relationship between wellness and housing stability. So it isn't actually true that letting people's emotional health erode completely helps them find housing, particularly in a market where finding housing is impossible. So saying to a youth shelter, you cannot do any arts-based work because that is not explicitly oriented to housing provision or seeking housing is nonsensical, but people are receiving that message from consultants that work municipally, work with municipalities, a consultant that works with municipalities, and then those municipalities are then trickling that message to service providers and saying, we'll take your funding away. Mm-hmm. And what we know is that in small communities, if you take the funding away from the only youth shelter, for example, we don't have a youth shelter. Period. Yes. And so it's a really, I think we've created a bit of a monster.
For sure. And then we have those consulting agencies taking the data they've collected from this community and holding it up as an exemplar to the next community. And the next community goes, oh, our shelters, now we better get to this level, thinking
Yes.
it's to this level when it's really to down there. Like, we're going to get worse because we're going to benchmark ourselves against some other community that some consultant has.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, no, and it's really, I mean, yeah, again, I feel for people, but we need to open our eyes and think critically about how much energy we're putting into this stuff, because it's not helping young people and it's not helping in Peterborough. There's a number of people who are banned, I think, forever from all of our shelter systems because their needs are so complex. Well, that isn't actually a response that is humane. That's a violation of our obligations under many human rights.
Oh, yeah.
But it is a rationalized response that is shaped in part by a lack of reasonable non-criminalizing alternatives.